has organized a car festival or a chariot festival in his house. So the devotees have gathered at Balarama's house. Balarama is a close devotee of Sri Ramakrishna. He has invited Sri Ramakrishna specially for this car festival. Usually the car festival is celebrated all over the world, especially in Puri, Orissa state in India, drawing lakhs of people every year. The car festival, the Lord Jagannath was installed in a huge chariot and pulled by the devotees as a service to the Lord. So now among the devotees there were Narayan, Tej Chandra. Narayan or Naran is a student of 17 or 18 years old, brought to the master by M. He is very devoted to the master and is considered by him to be a perfectly pure. Narayan is from a wealthy Brahmin family of Calcutta, who disapproved of his association with the master, the parents. However, he continued to meet the master secretly. The master considered him to be Narayana personified. Sri Ramakrishna encouraged M to introduce his young students who had divine traits to each. In this way, both would make spiritual progress quickly. Describing a person with divine attributes, Sri Ramakrishna says that he is like the shell of the good gourd. The tampura, the string instrument, the tampura made out of it would give a good sound. In the same way, if one's inner nature has a good traits, it doesn't take long for him to have God realization. Sri Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, in the 16th chapter, about the divine attributes or moral and spiritual values like fearlessness, purity of heart, steadfastness in knowledge and devotion, and so on. It is obvious that these great qualities, when practiced properly and imbibed, will raise all human beings from the brute level to divine heights. Swami Ranganathananda says in the universal message of the Bhagavad Gita, those who believe that beyond this physical system there is a real self, a spark of the divine, even though their lives are still at physical level, they know that there is something high and they must strive for it. Those who strive for higher values are endowed with divine attributes or divine traits. Thank you.
Today we are starting a new chapter, chapter 42 of the Gospel. As we heard in the introduction, Balaram is celebrating the chariot festival at his home. This is one of the main celebrations of the Puri Jagannath temple, where the Lord is taken the chariot. See, God is without any attributes. He can be with form or without form, but devotees like to attribute all the human traits on God. So that's how Jagannath. Jagannath, he had a big bath that has happened some early end of second half of May or early part of June, and then he gets sick. So what happened? He has to rest. He rests for a week, and then he goes to recuperate for a change of air to his aunt's house. That is what we do. We put on God. So that's what the chariot festival is. The three images of Krishna, that is Jagannath, and brother Balaram and Subhadra, they are kept in 3 chariots, and the devotees draw the, not the horse or anything, they pull the chariot tied with big ropes. And the English word Jagannath is got from that. And the missionaries used to say, see, huge crowd, thousands and thousands, now it's millions of people. And there'll be always stampede will be there, some people will fall down, the death may occur. And the missionaries said, oh, the idolaters, they throw themselves in front of the chariot. That's how the missionaries used to spread the news in the West. And from there, from Jagannath came the word Jaggernaut. You can, in the English, one of the English word is Jaggernaut. Now, the devotees who are devoted to Lord Krishna or Jagannath, sometimes they have worship of the Lord in that particular form. See, we have got, even Vishnu or Krishna has got so many names, so many aspects. Jagannath is one of the aspects. So, Balaram is a devotee of Vishnu, Vaishnava, and they have the worship of Jagannath at their home. And that's why Sri Ramakrishna said Balaram's food is pure. That's the only place where Sri Ramakrishna used to have cooked food. Cooked food means, I mean, rice. Other places, then he was very particular about eating. And even some of these close devotees who are very particular about their food habits, Sri Ramakrishna said, no, you can eat at Balaram's house. Its food is pure because the food is offered to Jagannath. And he's a great devotee. And so Balaram also has got a small chariot in which he will place the deity, the idol that he's worshipping. And his house has got upstairs as a veranda all around. There's a big courtyard in the middle. The house is first floor, second floor, both ground floor and a first floor are around the courtyard which is in the middle. So the chariot is placed on the veranda outside on the first floor, and the devotees pull it, and they'll be singing, dancing, all those things. So Balaram has invited Sri Ramakrishna there. It is, he has come the previous day itself. The actual chariot festival was on 14th July. This is in 1883, 14th July, but Sri Ramakrishna had come the previous day itself. And he was staying there, the devotees come. It's a good chance for people who are in Calcutta to meet Sri Ramakrishna, because they cannot always go to Dakshineshwar. They have got work, and Dakshineshwar, they have to go by horse carriage, or those cannot afford, they have to walk or go by boat. Whereas in Calcutta, so it's easy. They just take the tram and come. So they make that opportunity to advantage when Sri Ramakrishna is in Calcutta. So that is what's happening here now. Tuesday, 14 July 1883. It was the day of the car festival. Sri Ramakrishna left his bed very early in the morning. He was alone in the room, dancing and chanting the name of God. M entered and saluted the master. Other devotees arrived one by one. They saluted the master and took seats near him. It was about 6:30 in the morning. M was going to bathe in the Ganges. It's close by. Balaram's house is not far from the Ganges, so M was going to bathe in the Ganges. When suddenly tremors of an earthquake were felt. At once he returned to Sri Ramakrishna's room. The master stood in the drawing room, that is on the first floor. The devotees stood around him. They were talking about the earthquake. The shaking had been rather violent, and many of the devotees were frightened. You should all have gone downstairs. See, they are on the first floor. They should have gone out downstairs and got out of the house. Master, such is the fate of the house under whose roofs roof one lives. And still people are so egotistic. See, if the tremors were strong, the house would have fallen down. But we boast, my house is so big, I've got such a big mansion. And if the earthquake is strong, then what happened to the mansion? Within a second, it's gone, all gone. But people are so egotistic. To M. Do you remember the great storm of the month of Ashwin? M. Yes, sir. I was very young at that time, 9 or 10 years old. I was alone in a room when the storm was raging and I prayed to God. M was surprised and said to himself, why did the master suddenly ask me about the great storm of Ashwin? Does he know that I was alone at that time, earnestly praying to God, with tears in my eyes? Does he know all this? Has he been protecting me as my guru since my very birth? See, Sri Ramakrishna is asking, do you remember the great storm of the month of Ashwin? Ashwin means September, October. Second half of September, first half of October, the month of Ashwin. When did it happen? And M says, yes, sir. I was very young at that time, 9 or 10 years old. That means now M is 30 years old. So 20 years ago. How did Sri Ramakrishna know about that? And he says, I was alone in a room while the storm was raging and I prayed to God. In his house, 20 years ago, he was frightened of the storm and he was crying, praying to God. How did Sri Ramakrishna know about that? That's M is wondering. M was surprised and said to himself, why did the master suddenly ask me about the great storm of Ashwin? Does he know that I was alone at that time, earnestly praying to God with tears in my eyes? Does he know all this? All the past and the future? Has he been protecting me as my guru since my very birth? There's another incident in the life of M. As a young child, very young child, younger than this incident, his mother had brought to Dakshineshwar Kali temple. And Kali temple at that time also was very crowded, not to speak of now. If you go, there'll be the long line, maybe kilometers long line. And in the crowd, the child got separated from the mother. And the child was crying, don't know where the mother is. And then an older person, a young man, came and comforted him and consoled him, and then found the mother and took the child to the mother. That was Sri Ramakrishna. See, that's why M is wondering, does he know all this? Has he been protecting me as my guru since my very birth? The relation between guru and the disciple is an eternal relationship. For a particular time, on a particular form, the guru has come to you, but that's it, it's an ongoing relationship. Master, it was quite late in the day at Dakshineshwar when the storm broke, but somehow they managed to cook the meals. The trees were uprooted. You see, this is the fate of the house one lives in. Now we know very well about the storm. We recently have been having so much of storm in Sydney. But when one attains perfect knowledge, then one finds that dying and killing are one and the same thing. That is to say, both are unreal. When one is dead, one has not really died. And when one is killed another, the man is not really dead. This is exactly what Sri Krishna says in the second chapter of the Gita. Na jayate mriyate va kadajit nayam bhutva bhavita vana bhuya. Again he says, it's not born, it is dead, it's not dead, And Eyanam Veti Handaram Eschainam Manyade Hadam. Ubho Tauna Vijanido Nayam Handi Nahanyade. He who thinks that he is dead, he who thinks that he is killed, both are wrong. Because he is neither dead nor killed. Why? Because this killing and dying and all happens to the body only. The real person is not dead. Nobody can kill. The Ātman, the real you, is the Ātman, the self, which is eternal, immortal. Nobody can kill it. No, and so that's why Krishna says, and that's what Sri Ramakrishna here saying, if you think that he is dead, it's false. It's not true. If you think that he is killing somebody, that's also not true. Because that all this happens to the body, not to the self. When Socrates was drinking the poison, one of his disciples asked, now Socrates, once you after your death, what are we to do with your, how shall we bury you? What should we do with them? Then Socrates said, first you have to catch me. First you have to catch me, because what is going to happen is only to the body, not to me. Then with the body you do as you do with any other body. And another incident, they say, Saint Kabir, when he passed away, the Hindus wanted to cremate, the Muslims wanted to bury. He is gone. The body is there. There was a big argument what to do with the body, because both claim to be their saint. Hindus claim Kabir is a Hindu saint. Muslims claim he is a Muslim saint. And then, in the end, they removed a cloth which was covering the body and found the body is not there. A heap of flowers were there. So half the flowers were taken by the Hindus and cremated, half the flowers taken by the Muslims and buried. So solved problem. When one is dead, one has not really died. And one has killed another, the man is not really dead. Because both are unreal. Both the Leela and Nitya belong to the same reality. In one form, it is absolute. In another, the Leela. Even though the Leela is destroyed, the Nitya always exists. Water is water, whether it is still or in waves. It's the same water when the waves quiet down. Leela means the manifested form of the universe. Nitya is the unmanifested. Both are same, only two aspects, manifested, unmanifested. Nitya is the unmanifested, unchanging substratum of everything that is manifested. If Nitya is not there, there can be no Leela. The classic example that Vedanta says is, you see a rope in a dim light and think it is a snake. Because in tropical countries, you'll see snakes everywhere. You think it's a snake. But when you bring in the light, you realize, oh, it's not a snake, it is just a rope. But as here in this example, you can say the rope is Nitya and the snake is Leela. To see the snake, you need to have the rope there. Without the rope, there is no snake. You cannot say both are unreal. If there is no rope, there is no snake. So if Nitya, the existent, the unchanging reality, absolute is not there, there is no world. The world is the Leela, manifested form of that same unmanifested reality. Both Leela and Nitya belong to the same reality. It is one, in one form it is absolute, and in another the Leela. Even though Leela is destroyed, Nitya always exists. When you bring in the light, you see it's not snake. Snake has gone, but the rope remains there. Because the rope is there, we see the snake. The rope is there. But Nitya always exists. Water is water, whether it is still or in waves. We cannot have any waves without water, but without waves, water is there. Without water, there's no wave, but without waves, water is still there. So without Leela, Nitya will be there. But without Nitya, Leela cannot be. Sri Ramakrishna sat in the drawing room with the devotees. Mahendra Mukherjee, Hari, Tayanga Narain, and many other devotees were there. Hari lived alone and studied Vedanta. He was about 23 years old and unmarried. Sri Ramakrishna was very fond of him. He wanted Hari to visit him frequently, but since Hari loved solitude, he did not often come to the master. Master to Hari, well, I haven't seen you for a long time. You see, in one form he is the absolute, and in another he is the relative. What does Vedanta teach? Brahman alone is real and the world illusory. Isn't that so? Hari later became Swami Turiyananda. He was very much into Advaita Vedanta. From as a young boy, he was interested in Vedanta, and there is a as a young man in his teens, long before he came to Sri Ramakrishna, there is an incident. He always used to tell himself, Brahman alone is real, the world is illusory, it's the teaching of Advaita Vedanta, and I am that Ātman, I am that immortal self. One day he had gone to take bath in the Ganges, and suddenly people shouted, crocodile, crocodile, crocodiles in the Ganges. And instinctively, it's a human instinct, he turned back and rushed towards the bank. Suddenly thought came, you always reason out that you are Ātman, the immortal Ātman, then why are you running away? So he went back to the water. The people said, don't go, crocodile. But luckily the crocodile had gone by the time. But that is his attitude. I am that immortal self. Always he had that attitude. And when he started coming to Sri Ramakrishna, he was fascinated by Sri Ramakrishna, but wouldn't come very often because he has to travel from Calcutta to come to Dakshineshwar, and then there will be people will be there. He wanted solitude and study Vedanta, study Vedantic books. He had all the Upanishads, Gita, all by heart. And such is his control over the mind that when he had a lot of carbuncles. He had to operate. When the doctor came to operate, he said, wanted to give chloroform. He said, no, just give me a few minutes. He just withdrew his mind. Now he can do. And the operation was done. Not a muscle moved on his face. Then another time, another carbuncle came. The doctor came. But the doctor didn't say that he was going to cut the wound. And he screamed. The doctor got shocked. But Swamiji, the other day I did it. But I didn't get a warning today to withdraw my mind. Just give me a few minutes. Then now you can go ahead. Such control over his mind. And when he was the last time, he was about to give up his body, he summed up his realization. Brahman is real. The world is real. The world is Brahman. The world is established in truth. That is realization. Brahman is what usually we say, Brahman is real, the world is unreal. But he is saying, Brahman is real, the world is real. Why? Because the world is Brahman, nothing but Brahman. That's what Sri Ramakrishna says as Vijnana. Jnana is Brahman is real, the world is unreal. That is jnana, you know. But one step further, you see the world as Brahman. So the world is also real because the world is Brahman. It's established in truth. The world is established in truth. Truth is Brahman is a truth, and that's the substratum. That he had that realization. And chanting Satyam Jnanam Anandam Brahma. Brahman is truth, infinity, and consciousness. And that's it. And he closed his eyes. Chapter closed. What a great life. That is Hari. And so Sri Ramakrishna saying, you see, what does Vedanta teach? Brahman alone is real and the world is illusory. Isn't that so? Another time he says, if that is the truth of teaching of Vedanta, why don't you just realize Brahman? But here he is saying, but as long as God keeps the ego of a devotee in a man, the relative is also real. In the beginning, Hari didn't have that idea. For Hari, the Brahman is real, world is unreal. But Sri Ramakrishna is saying, as long as God keeps the ego of a devotee in a man, the relative, that's the world, is also real. When he completely effaces the ego, then what is remains. That cannot be described by the tongue. But as long as God keeps the ego, one must accept all. When as long as the ego is there, I feeling is there, then the world is real. We are dealing with the world, relative world, and how can we say the world is unreal? I'm seeing all of you, I'm talking to you, I'm interacting with you, and I say, you are unreal, the world is unreal. No. As long as I have what I feel, then you are also real. When that I goes, then the whole world is unreal. Nothing is there. When he completely effaces the ego, then what is remains. That cannot be described by the tongue. What remains, it cannot be described. But as long as God keeps the ego, one must accept all. By removing the outer sheets of the plantain tree, one reaches the inner pit. As long as the tree contains sheets, it also contains pith. So too, as long as it contains pith, it also contains sheets. See, in the banana plant, if you cut it, you can see, you remove the outer ones, the sheets. That's actually the long stem of the leaf. And you remove one after another, and inside you can see the pith. So, outside sheath, inside pith. As long as sheath is there, pith is there. As long as pith is there, sheath also will be there. So Sri Ramakrishna is comparing these two, Nitya and Leela. In the same way, when you speak of Nitya, it is understood that Leela also exists. When you speak of Leela, it is understood that Nitya also exists. So Nitya is, you have to remember, Nitya is Brahman and Leela is the world. It is he alone who has become the universe, the living beings, and the 24 cosmic principles. When he is actionless, I call him Brahman. When he creates, preserves, and destroys, I call him Shakti. Brahman and Shakti are not different from each other. Water is water, whether it is still or moving. See, when it's like potential energy and kinetic energy. When it is actionless, not doing anything, it's Brahman. when it is creating, the same entity, when it is creating, preserving, destroying, we call it Shakti, call it Kali, or Maya. All the different, they are different terms for the same reality. It is not possible to rid oneself of the I consciousness. And as long as one is aware of this I consciousness, one cannot speak of the universe and its living beings as unreal. It's very hard. People may say, I don't have any ego. I'm free from ego. I am free from ego. What is that I? That's ego. But we think that I don't have an ego. We think egotistic. Egotism is different. Egotism you may be able to get rid of. But ego, no. Ego will be there. Sri Ramakrishna says it's very difficult to get rid of ego. Because existence depends upon ego. As long as you are alive, the ego will be there. That I consciousness. It is not possible to rid oneself of I consciousness. And then as long as that ego is there, I consciousness is there, how can you say the world is unreal? You cannot. As long as one is aware of this I consciousness, one cannot speak of the universe and its living beings as unreal. The brick, lime and brick dust of which the stairs are made are the same brick, lime and brick dust of which the roof is made. The universe and its living beings exist on account of the reality of him who is known as Brahman. This is an example Sri Ramakrishna used to give. Another place here says, when you climb on the steps to reach the roof, the terrace, you climb, no, he says, as you climb each step, this is not the terrace, give it up. This is not, go to the next level, this is not the terrace. And then you reach the terrace. When you reach the terrace, you realize that the terrace is made of brick dust, lime, and the steps are also made of the same thing. So when you realize that, when you reach Brahman, then you realize the universe is also same Brahman, nothing different. But till then, it's different. Brahman is different. Till you reach that reality, I have the realization, Brahman is different, universe is different, universe is real then. The devotee, I mean Vijnanis, accept both God with form and formless, both the personal God and the impersonal. In a shoreless ocean, the infinite expanse of water, visible blocks of ice are formed here and there by intense cold. Sri Ramakrishna hasn't come to or heard about Arctic Circle or Antarctic Circle, but he knows all these things. With extreme cold, the water freezes into blocks of ice. Similarly, under the cooling influence, so to say, of the deep love of its worshipper, the infinite reduces itself to finite and appears before the worshipper as God with form. See, people ridicule worshippers of personal God, think that you are all worshipping, you are idolaters, you are worshipping stone or wood, metal, because idols are made of this. But Swami Vivekananda says, I have traveled all over India, but I have never seen a person praying in front of the idol saying, oh stone, please do grant me this. Oh wood, please listen to my prayer. They are praying to God. It is with the intense devotion, God takes that particular form. It is, we keep the pictures. We keep the photograph of our family, husband, wife, children to remind all the time. But keeping the picture of God or any image is idol worship. And why does God, that infinite reality which is formless take the form of particular form? Because the devotee loves to see that form. The intense devotion, in deep love of the worshipper, the infinite reduces itself to finite. Take a limiting. Taking a form means limiting. And appears before the worshipper as God with form. Again, as on the rising of sun, the ice melts away, so on awakening of knowledge, God with form melts away to the same infinite and formless. As long as a man analyzes with the mind, he cannot reach the absolute. We always analysis with the mind. We reason with our mind. This is God with form, this is God without form, and this is not God, this is not Brahman. All this reasoning we do with the mind. As long as you reason with your mind, you have no way of getting rid of the universe and the objects of the senses. Form, taste, smell, touch and sound. The 5 elements of the universe, of which the universe is made up of. And they are the objects of senses. Form, we see with the eyes. Taste, tongue. Smell, nose. Touch, skin. Sound, ear. The 5 sense organs connected with the 5 sense objects. As long as you reason with the mind, there is no way to get rid of the universe and the 5 objects of senses. Why is that? Why does Sri Ramakrishna say that? Why can't we get it? Can't we just reason it and get rid of this is not this is not Brahman, this is not Brahman? Because the mind with which we are reasoning is also part of Prakriti. Prakriti is within the bound of Maya or unreality. You have to go beyond Prakriti to reach Brahman. When reasoning stops, you attain the knowledge of Brahman. Later, during the Christmas holiday time, M stayed with Sri Ramakrishna to do Indian spiritual practices. And there you can see at that time Sri Ramakrishna asking again and again, stop your reasoning. Tell me you won't reason anymore. Promise you won't reason. 3 times he asked him. And M says yes. Because too much of reasoning, you can't go, you're limiting yourself within the mind. Sri Ramakrishna wanted M to go beyond that, to reach the reality, the realization that he is one with God, Brahman. And as long as you reason, you can't. And another time he says, reasoning is like putting a hand and stirring up all the mud in the bottom of the lake. You can't see the bottom clear. Water is very dirty. Stop reasoning. Once you have learned, put your faith, till then you reason. Till you get conviction, you have to reason out. Find out, using your reasoning power, find whether what the scriptures, the teacher says is true or not. Then try to find out, realize that. Go on reasoning, that's what we do. We go on studying scriptures. The whole life we study scriptures. What does the scripture say? If you do these things, you will realize God, you will attain Brahman, you will realize yourself. But we don't do that. We go on studying. You're confining within ourselves, within the bounds of the reasoning. As long as you reason with your mind, you have no way of getting rid of the universe and objects of senses. When reasoning stops, you attain the knowledge of Brahman. Ātman cannot be realized through this mind. Ātman is realized through Ātman alone. Pure Buddhi, pure mind, pure Ātman. All these are one and the same. When the mind becomes pure, completely pure, no more superimposition, everything is removed, then the mind as we know is no longer there. It becomes no mind. No mind, it is one with Atman. Just think how many things you need to perceive an object. You need eyes, you need light, you need mind. See, the light rays from the object comes to our eyes. So you need light, you need eyes, you need light. Then it goes to the mind. The mind, the first part is, one part of the mind is the receiving station. Then it goes to another part where it see whether it's some new information, this experience, this is before already there, reason it out. Check the store, check the storeroom, check the catalog. Yes, it is there. I know, that is Betty. I have seen this person, this is Betty. The catalog says, oh, this information is there. Then another part of the mind, which we call ego, comes forward. Yes, I know that is Betty. So many things are involved. You cannot perceive the object if you leave out any one of these. See, suppose I am absorbed in reading something. You come and stand in front of me. I don't see. Light is there, eyes are there, but mind is not there. All these things are needed unless to get the impression from external world. You cannot perceive an object if you leave out any one of these. As long as the mind functions, how can you say that the universe and the I do not exist? You cannot say. When the mind is annihilated, when it stops deliberating the pro and con, then one goes into samadhi. One attains knowledge of Brahman. When the mind is annihilated. Till then, the world is there. We cannot know the mind, we cannot know the supreme reality, Brahman, with the mind. The Kena Upanishad says, it is unknown to those who know well and known to those who do not know. It's a strange way of saying, it is unknown to those who know well. If you know well, how can you say it's unknown? And known to those who do not know. Avijanatam vijanatam. Vijanam avijanata. It is unknown to those who know well. Unknown to those who say that I have known it. I have known Brahman. Because those who say I have known Brahman, I have understood Brahman, think that Brahman is an object of knowledge. Brahman is not. So that means they have no idea what Brahman is. So the Upanishad says it is unknown to those people who say, I have known it. Brahman is not an object of knowledge. And known to those who do not know. Those who say, I do not know, means they have understood that Brahman is not an object of knowledge. Brahman cannot be an object of knowledge. That knowledge they have got. That means they get some idea of Brahman. Those who say, I have known Brahman, they think that Brahman is an object of knowledge. That means they have no idea of Brahman. But those who say, I do not know Brahman, have some idea that Brahman cannot be an object of knowledge. That means they have got some inkling of that what the reality is. That is why Sri Ramakrishna says, because it is very hard, he cannot describe what Brahman is. He can only say negative. This is not Brahman, this is not Brahman. But what Brahman is, nobody can say. Earlier we said, what remains is. When you negate everything, what remains? That's it. But what is that remaining? Nobody can describe. Sri Ramakrishna gives two similes for that. He says, Brahman is the only one which is not polluted. Here in India, or it's not going now, it's almost all gone away. Anything touched with the tongue, it's polluted. You don't touch often people have the habit of turning the pages licking. It's polluted. You touch the tongue, it's polluted. It's scientific, it is hygienic, because your saliva goes there. The germs go there. If you say all that, people will say that's nonsense. But if you say it's polluted, you should not use, no, that's very good. Brahman is the only thing which is not polluted, because nobody is able to utter what Brahman is. Everything else, with forms of God, all the other, samadhi, everything has been described. But what Brahman is, nobody has been able to describe. So Brahman is the only one which is not polluted. He says that to Ishwarananda Vidyasagar, the great scholar. And Vidyasagar says, oh, that's something new I have heard for the first time. And another example he says is, the father sent the two sons to the teacher's home. And after 12 years, both of them came back after studying everything. And the father asked, oh, you have learned everything about Brahman? Well, let me see. Tell me what you have learned about Brahman. The elder son gave a long lecture on Brahman. The father stood and listened to everything. And then he asked the second one, come on, boy, what have you learned? He kept quiet. Then the father said, you have understood something. Because what Brahman is cannot be described. When the mind is annihilated, when it stops deliberating pro and con, then one goes into samadhi, one attains the knowledge of Brahman. When the mind is annihilated, in that state, there is no longer the triad of knower, knowledge, object of knowledge. There is no more there. It's not there. They cease to be different. They all become one, the union. But how are we to realize that state? By negating. This is not Brahman, this is not Brahman, this is not Brahman. You negate everything that's on the object of knowledge. After negating every quality, even with the, personal God without form, without name and form, but qualities. We say, as the Abrahamic faiths, all of them have got this idea. God, personal God with attributes, no name and form. No form. Name, of course, they say, but no form, but attributes are there. God is compassionate, God is merciful, God is loving, all those attributes are there. When all those attributes are removed, and what remains? You remove one by one all those attributes, even the attributes that we attribute, say God is compassionate, God is loving, God is caring for you, everything you remove, what remains? You cannot say, then it reveals itself, what it is. Our eye also goes away. Then what remains? Nobody can say what is. That is pure consciousness, and at that stage, the person goes into samadhi. When the mind is annihilated, one stops deliberating pro and con, then one goes into samadhi. Knowledge of Brahman. Looking at younger Naren, Sri Ramakrishna said, what will you gain by merely being intuitively aware of God's existence? What will you gain by merely being intuitively aware of God's existence? That means you intuitively you know God exists, but what's not enough? A mere vision of God is by no means everything. You have to bring him into your room. You have to talk to him. See what a high stage. You have to be intimate with God. Knowing God, seeing God is not enough. And here, often people think, oh, they have a dream of some form of God, or saw a light, or heard some sound. That's they have reached the acme of spiritual experiences. It's nothing. Even seeing God directly is not enough. You have to be very close to God, familiar with God. That's why Ramakrishna says, you have to bring him to your room. You have to talk to him. That is Vijnana. Some have heard of milk, some have seen milk, some have drunk milk. Some have heard of milk, no idea, no knowledge. Some have seen milk, got some idea, knowledge is there. Some have drunk milk and got nourishment. That is Vijnana, wisdom. Sri Ramakrishna was filled with intense spiritual fervor. Words of wisdom flowed from him. Now and then he narrated his profound mystical experiences to the devotees. Master, I went to Benares with Madhur Babu. Madhur Babu, the proprietor, they went on a pilgrimage to Benares and wanted Sri Ramakrishna to go with them. He was very happy. Went to the city of the Lord. Benares has been, the spiritual capital of the whole world, the known world, from time immemorial. We cannot say when it. Where whatever we see, read in the epics, Benares is always there, established as a spiritual center. I went to Benares with Madhur Babu. Our boat was passing on the Manikarnika Ghat on the Ganges, when suddenly I had a vision of Shiva. See, it's a belief of the Hindus that if you die in Benares, you get salvation. So people go there hoping that they will die in Benares. Anyway, those who die in Benares, their bodies are cremated on the bank of the Ganges, and Manikarnika Ghat is one of the main places. Sri Ramakrishna says, when the boat was passing the Manikarnika Ghat, I suddenly had a vision of Shiva. I stood near the edge of the boat and went into Samadhi. The boatman, fearing that I might fall into the water, cried to Hriday, catch hold of him, catch hold of him. In the Samadhi, what happens is nobody knows. And anybody cannot go and touch Sri Ramakrishna in that state. So the boatman was calling to Hriday, his nephew. I saw Shiva standing on that ghat, embodying in himself all the seriousness of the world. At first, I saw him standing at a distance. Then I saw him approaching me. At last, he merged in me. See, this is all mystic experiences. We read this, but how much do we understand? How much we take in? Sri Ramakrishna says about so many visions that he had. The first vision with eyes open was, he was walking into Panchavati and he saw a lady walking towards him. The face was extremely beautiful, but this is a tinge of sorrow on the face, very compassionate eyes. So who is this? Who is this lady? And she walked towards him and merged in him. And before that, she realized that is Sita, Mother Sita. Then he saw the same way when he was practicing Christianity, he was heard the Bible read out to him. And one day he was sitting in the garden house of the neighbor, Jedu Malik, who had a portrait of baby Jesus on the arms of Mother Mary, just similar to the one we have here. And Sri Ramakrishna was looking intently at the picture when he saw the baby becoming alive and rays of light coming from, emanating from the child's body and entering him. And suddenly, all his Hindu ideas about gods, goddesses, everything just disappeared. He got worried. What is this happening to me? What is happening to me? Mother, nothing. And he came back. He came back to his room. He didn't feel like going to the Kali temple. He didn't feel like saluting the pictures of Hindu gods and goddesses. He just remained in that state for 3 days. The third day, when he was walking on the bank of the Ganges, near the Panchavati, he saw a person walking towards him. Straight away he knew this is a foreigner. Who is he? Who is this man? And very slowly coming towards him, and then suddenly merged in him. Before that, a voice from within said, "This is Jesus who sacrificed himself for the welfare of humanity." See, we see that so many times, these forms of God appearing before and then merging in him. At first, I saw him standing at a distance. This is about Shiva. Standing at a distance. Then I saw him approaching me. At last, he merged in me. And Sri Ramakrishna had another vision in Benares. He saw in the Manikarnika Ghat, where the bodies are being burnt, Shiva sitting on one side of the dead body and Divine Mother on the other side. Shiva is uttering the name of the Lord into the ears of the dead body, and Divine Mother is cutting out all the bonds. When the scholars of Benares heard this vision about Sri Ramakrishna's vision, they said, "We have read in the Kashi Mahatmya, that is the glory of the place, Kashi, Benares. They said person who dies in Benares get freedom, liberation. But how? We never knew." Now Sri Ramakrishna's vision describes exactly. Lord Shiva utters the name of the Lord, the ears, and Divine Mother cut off all the bonds. And that means that soul won't have to take birth again. That is why they have this firm faith. If you die in Kashi, that is on the side where Vishwanath temple is, not on the other side of the river Ganga. River Ganga, both banks are there, but the opposite side, where the side opposite to where the temples are, no, that's not included. The side where all the temples are, that part is called really Kashi. And if you die there, salvation is true. Oh, everybody will die there? Those who die. If you are a wicked person, it may happen that you are living there all the time. For some business, you go out of Kashi and you may die. So, death is not in our hand. A few days ago, I read in the paper, in one of the Indian paper, that a retired Chief Justice, Chief Secretary of some state in India, he was invited for some book release, and he was talking about death. And he said, the place, the time of the death, a person's death, nobody can change. It's predetermined. he just finished the sentence and collapsed and died. He was taken to the hospital, but he was already dead. Strange. I felt so surprised to read when I read that. So when you die, if you are really fortunate, then you will die in Benares, not otherwise. Then if you are dead, you have died in Benares, of course, Lord Shiva and Mother Annapurna will release you forever.
Just a few announcements for this week. There will be a yoga class on the 18th, the Thursday, from 10 a.m. to 11:15. There will not be a Friday night discussion this week, and please join the Vedanta Society of New South Wales for the talk next week on the 4 yogas, with the talk beginning on Bhakti Yoga Part 1. And please join us now for the meditation.